Become a wealth creator today. Text VISIT to 800-454-1184 to schedule your 15-minute call with Eric and his team. That's VISIT to 800-454-1184.
Is 2024 going to be your year to retire? Well, if so, we have a retirement forecast for you. This way you can understand the key factors you need to consider before you actually enter this phase of life. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman, who is passionate about helping retirees have a remarkable retirement. In fact, it's his goal to help you weather most any economic storm that we face. And also his goal is to help 1,001 people retire by 2031. He's a certified financial planner. Here's the phone number, 800-454-1184. Again, 800-454-1184. You can call for a complimentary appointment. You can also text the word toolbox to get Eric's book, Worry Less Wealth. Okay, so again, that phone number to text if you would prefer, 800-454-1184. Find us online anytime at wealthcreatorradio.com. Eric, hello to you.
Hey, Luann, good talking to you. And first of all, I know you're a Chiefs fan, so we'll ignore that part. We'll ignore that part, but go Niners.
Okay.
For this weekend here. So
yeah. What are we going to do?
Maybe they'll meet again.
I was going to say, if we meet again, oh dear, Eric, oh dear. Well, we'll see. All right, let's get into what we have in front of us. The fact that some people are going to call this year, their year to retire. Now, financial analysts are saying a persistent inflation and the possibility of living a long time in retirement are two of the biggest factors to consider for those that are planning to retire this year. How are you talking to people about these challenges?
Well, inflation is one of those things that is always going to be there in some respects, right? And I've got a client, Beth, who was in here just recently, and she's been a client of mine for quite some time, and she's just like, wow, you got to tell people things get so much more expensive. And she's basically spending about double what she was spending, when she first retired 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And this was not a lot of those years where, one of those years was a zero supposedly inflation year, right? And such. So it's not just these more recent, higher inflation times, but, I think it's something that you're always going to have to be planning for. So if you're not making sure your income's getting larger and getting bigger over time, that's going to be a big, issue for sure. And then, yeah, people are living way, way longer. I mean, I've got clients in their 70s that still have their parents alive. Some, in a few cases, which, that's, if you're counting on that inheritance, oops, right? That's maybe not going to happen. And so, that's one of the issues I think that a lot of people need to be doing is having an income plan that runs those numbers out with taxes, inflation, make sure it takes it out to 100. Even if you say, oh, no, I'm not going to live that long. I mean, for some bizarre reason, everybody says they're not going to live as long as even their family history shows.
Yeah.
It's just we all think it's not going to be us for some reason. So, you definitely have to have that planned out in a written income plan so you're going to be good. You're going to be okay.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the challenges then. My husband and I are in this position right now. Costs keep going up, right? But we're trying to save to stay ahead of inflation for retirement. So, how do we save in this environment?
Well, there's a couple things. One would be, more tax-free stuff you can do. So if you can be, funneling more of that to Roth IRA, or at least maybe in converting to Roth IRA. So at least then there's no tax inflation, right? There's no big tax cost that's going to be coming out of those dollars. Obviously, you have to really be paying attention to your savings accounts now. I mean, this seems like a basic thing, but I'm still blown away with how many people I meet. I just talked to somebody he's saving for a house. He's trying to figure out how to also put more money away. Yet he has $180,000 in a checking account, not even a bank savings account.
Yeah.
If you put that into an online savings account, I did the math. It'd be around $1,000 a month.
Wow.
If he's trying to figure out how to save more money, I mean, with no cost to him, he could just move that money and withdraw $1,000 a month and put it into, a brokerage or investment account. So, it's right now, if you've got money in, a bank or credit union savings account, make sure it's the highest. It has to be at least 4% or higher. If it's not, then they're really ripping you off. So, that'd be one basic thing that people can take action now and really get some, fast return on.
So you have to really find that balance, though, between, growth and then preservation. So how are you talking to people about that?
Well, that advice never changes. That advice is to have the three types of money. So you need to have market money, which everybody talks about, which is basically the only option, unfortunately, in your 401k. So that's stocks, bonds, ETFs, all that junk. But what about the other stuff, right? We mentioned savings accounts. That'd be a foundational, something that's guaranteed. There's insurance company accounts right now that will allow you to earn a rate based on the stock market indexes, and they'll let you get up to over double-digit returns, before they max you out in terms of that interest rate. So, there's some great products out there that are safe and guaranteed and protected where you can't lose your money. And you need those because you're going to have bad years in retirement. And during those bad years, you got to take money from someplace. So that's why those are important. But also in between there, you want some steady income. This is stuff that pays you really good high dividends, stuff that's paying you, 6 to 9% on a either monthly or quarterly basis that ideally has lower volatility and can keep paying that money to you. And again, why do you need that? Well, if you're retired, you need that cash flow, right? You need that money coming in all the time. So that's the main reason why we need to have that. So, what we've done, here at Heckman Financial is we've said, okay, how do we get more information to people? How do we get stuff that you can read real quick? The stuff that's not super long, right? Stuff that you can look at it and say, well, my money lasts as long as I do. How much should I be living on in retirement? When should I time that Social Security decision? All that and more. Well, we've even added my book, Worry Less Wealth, in there. And even a way to set up a time for no obligation, free consultation with us. So all you got to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And you're listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. I'm Luann Fulmer. Now, we have reports on Social Security that the trust fund could fall short this year without any action from Congress. We've been talking about this for a long time. One of the options being considered is raising the full retirement age, Eric.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've already basically done that. So, they already moved it to 67. So, of course, they could do that again. I think the one that would make more sense would actually move the 62 up. I don't know why. I didn't know why they didn't move that. And, that's one that still amazingly a lot of people take it because they worry it's going to run out. Mm-hmm. I mean, Social Security is going to still be there. It's just going to be changed, right? It's going to be taxed more. It's going to be other things. They're going to go after people who are too far away from it, so they won't complain. So for most people who are at retirement, it probably won't be as big effect. But also we have, a Congress that doesn't want to do anything. We have presidents, that are trying to rerun again, right? And, it's like 2020 all over again, right? And, but none of them want to do anything. There's no real changes actually being made. And so it's going to get to be a super critical item before I think they actually finally take some action and fix these things. So, that's one of the hard parts is if you're trying to count on that, you can count on some of it, but you don't want to have it. Of course, if that was your only source, that would not be pretty. No, you do not want that. And most of the stats usually show something like 50% of Americans that is their only source for retirement, which is really scary. So, you need to be saved more on your own. You need to be putting that money away. Regardless of age, you got to start putting that money away. The earlier you do it, the better off. But, we're all bad and we all start too late. So, so one of the things that you want to do is have that plan, have that written blueprint. And that's, again, what we do here at Heckman Financial is we can actually sit down and go through that income, investment, tax, healthcare, and legacy plan. Have that all written out for you. And then it's up to you if you want to take action on it or not. So again, if you want to start that process by having that Worry Less Wealth visit where we just talk for 15 to 30 minutes with me, Eric Heckman, we'll go over whatever questions you got, and then we can kind of go from there, see if it makes sense to proceed. So again, if you want to set up that time, all you have to do is go to our toolbox and you get that data. So you just have to text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And please remember, it's complimentary. All this is complimentary. We have to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with more from Eric Heckman. This is Wealth Creator Radio.
Be sure to like and subscribe to Wealth Creator Radio so you can stay up to date on ways to build your wealth and create a retirement you and your family will enjoy for years to come. Like and subscribe today and create your wealth for tomorrow with Wealth Creator Radio.
Are you happy with your Medicare plan? Even if you are, what was good for you this year might not be what's best for you next year. The team at Heckman Financial can help you sort through all the options to find the best one for you. Call now, 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184.
Hey, thanks for joining us. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. I'm Luann Fulmer. So the IRS tax code is full of thousands of sections. Each has its own specific definitions, rules, fees, and guess what? Taxpayers are legally bound to follow all of them. So, Eric, you know all about taxes. You and your team do this. You have the license for that and everything. But filing taxes every year can be overwhelming. It's complicated. However, you say there's a more proactive approach that pre-retirees can take. So explain the differences then between tax planning and tax preparation.
Yeah, I always like to just kind of equate it with what you see on the news, right? So if you see some store gets robbed and they took whatever and nothing that anybody can do anything about, right?
Right.
Well, hopefully the police catch the people, but beyond that,
exactly.
So that's kind of what I call reporting, right? That's tax reporting. That's what you do in April when you do your tax return, and it's just saying, here's what happened. And there's pretty much not much of anything you can do at that point. There's very tiny bits of tax planning you can do in April. Because the year already had ended, so it already had happened. Instead, if that store owner had done some more security or bars in the window or whatever, right, to make it a little bit more secure, that would be planning, right? And that's really what we want to do with taxes. We want to do tax planning. And so there's a couple of ways to do tax planning. One, of course, is at the end of the year. That's when it's really good to be doing tax planning to see, did you have some big gains in some stocks that you want, and maybe you want to sell some of those? Maybe you can sell some of your losers, offset the two. Should you be doing Roth conversions? Usually at the end of the year, you know how much money you made. So, you can figure that out. At the beginning of the year, though, if you're retired, that might be the time to be doing a lot of tax planning of how do you get your money out, right? Because if you all of a sudden just take a whole bunch of money from an IRA, well, now you've got a lot of taxes to pay. Would it have been smarter to take some from Roth, some from a taxable account, and so forth, and blend that tax picture a little bit more smooth? And so that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about tax planning versus tax reporting.
Yeah, I like the way tax planning is reporting on it. I mean, tax preparation, is reporting on it, and then tax planning is actually looking for the future. So speaking of, you mentioned we should do tax planning, really at the beginning of the year too, right? For the future, for what you're going to do that year. But in retirement, when should we start planning for our future with taxes?
Yeah, well, so for me, my goal is for my clients to have the least tax over their lifetime, not 1 year.
Okay.
So one of the problems I find a lot of people do is they ask, well, I don't know if you can ask software, but they either ask their software or ask their tax person, how do I pay the least tax this year? Well, I've seen people who are in the 10 and 12% bracket put money into a tax deductible IRA where they're going to have to pay taxes down the road on it. Well, most likely they're going to still be at least 10 or 12, if not 22 or 24% then. So why would you want to defer those taxes if you're already at a low bracket?
Oh, yeah.
Put that money in Roth and make it tax-free for the rest of your life. You're not really getting any big savings for that. So there's little things like that people just don't really kind of think about. And for us, nice thing when we're developing our income plan, we can look at what the effect of the taxes will be over time. Now, recently, I had a client that was had a rental and had their own house, and they're very frugal. They paid off both mortgages. She's got a little pension. They got Social Security, and they sold off another thing, and so they'd had all this cash sitting there, and so they were just looking at putting it into CD at the bank. Well, I just ran the numbers with this. It was $500,000, so it was sizable amount,
Wow.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But that same CD at the bank versus putting that into a tax deferred account with the same interest rate with an insurance company, the difference is the insurance company would be tax deferred. Well, that difference over 20 years on that $500,000 was $200,000 more in taxes by using the bank versus using the insurance company. And same interest rate. So there's literally no difference in how they're earning the money. It's just when are they paying the tax? And since they won't need the money, why pay the tax today, right? And so again, that's one of those things where you're looking at tax planning versus tax reporting. How do you lower that income over your lifetime? And it was a huge effect, over that 20-year time period. And so, again, that's where it's easy to figure that out in a plan. That's easy to figure out if you have that data. So one of the things that we've set up for people is a digital toolbox, which it's got several things in there. Will my money last as long as I do? Am I paying too much in taxes in retirement? When should I decide to take my Social Security? All those things. My book, Worry Less Wealth, and even has a spot where you can set up a time to talk to us. So why don't you take some time, really get yourself educated about what options are out there, and download all these great resources. They're really quick to read, by the way. They're not super long-winded
Yeah.
and not jargony or anything. So all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
These are free tools that Eric is offering you in this toolbox. It's a digital toolbox. You can make some small tweaks to your retirement plan that could really make a difference. Like he said, finding ways to save money. So this is all complimentary. Take advantage of it. Text toolbox 800-454-1184. And thanks for joining us. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer. So we kind of touched on this a little bit. The tax code is not set in stone. We know it's going to change, from one presidential administration to another. So obviously, it's very important to take advantage of the current tax planning opportunities before they change again, right?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we know that the Trump tax laws expire at the end of, New Year's Eve on 2025 is the last day of it. So starting in 2026, we go back to the 2017 rules. So right now the brackets are lower than they've ever been in really for a long time, or for some people, actually a lot of areas forever. So, since tax code started. So I mean, one of the things, if things are on sale, you usually go buy them then.
Exactly.
And you're right. So you don't wait for the sale to be over and things to go back up. And so it does sound weird, but taxes are on sale. They are cheaper. And so what does that mean? Well, that means you could do Roth conversions, take some of that money, put it into a tax-free account for the rest of your life, and never have to worry about paying the tax again. And so lots of times people don't really think about that. They don't think about the ramifications long-term, that is. But it's huge. I mean, if you say you've got $100,000 and you're not going to touch that money for 10 years. Well, the rule 72 says, how long your money doubles. So if you average 7%, and right now you can get over 6 guaranteed, so it's getting easier to average that, then over 10 years, that money would have doubled. Well, if that extra 100,000 was on the tax-free side of the world versus the taxable side of the world, that's a lot more money for you, right? Because if you have to take that 100 out and pay tax, you may only get 70,000. But if that 100 was all to you, yay, right? So,
Exactly.
So that's the things we want to be doing when we're talking about taxes right now.
Okay, excellent. And then just in the small amount of time we have left, the RMDs, required minimum distribution age, has changed to 73 years. So to quickly talk about the impact they have on taxes.
Yeah, so RMDs are a thing called required minimum distribution. So this is when you have to take your money out. So this is when the government says, okay, time's up. We let you, take this money, invest it, and now we want it back. And hopefully you did good with it. And so it's been very confusing because it was 70 and a half. Then they moved it to 72. And then 2 years later, they moved it to 73 if you're born before 1960. If you're after 1916 later, it's actually 75. So it's gotten even more confusing because now there's more numbers and ages, right? So that's one of the things that you have to be planning for. You do need to make sure that how that's going to come out, and if you're lucky enough to not have to need a lot of that money, well, then you have to start paying that tax at that age. Well, a couple of years ago, or several years ago now, when it was 70 and a half still, I had a client that, they first retired and they had a lot of money in savings, some other stuff. And so they were taking that money out and it seemed all fine. But then when we did their taxes, they hadn't really done the tax planning with me yet because they were newer. Their Social Security, $24,000 of it was taxed the previous year. Now it was $54,000. Well, then they'd take extra money to pay the extra tax bill. And then that following year, their Social Security, $74,000 of it was taxable. So almost all of it had been now was taxable because of those IRA withdrawals. And so, you do have to plan this out ahead of time. Ideally, you meet with us before you're 70 or before now 72 or 73. But so that's one of those things where, getting this data, getting this information, definitely get that toolbox. All you have to do is, again, text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox 800-454-1184 or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
When we come back, we'll talk about why it's so important to talk to a retirement planner as you're planning out your taxes. That's next on Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman.
Do you know whether your retirement plan has any weak points? Discover ways on giving your financial future the proper tune-up. Simply go online to wealthcreatortoolbox.com to gain a better understanding in taxes, Social Security, and other ways to manage your portfolio.
And that's how it's done.
That's wealthcreatortoolbox.com.
Be sure to like and subscribe to Wealth Creator Radio so you can stay up to date on ways to build your wealth and create a retirement you and your family will enjoy for years to come. Like and subscribe today and create your wealth for tomorrow with Wealth Creator Radio.
Hi, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer with Eric Heckman. He is president of Heckman Financial right here in Silicon Valley. And of course, as always, we're talking about retirement planning, specifically how to preserve your retirement from taxes. The IRS has a comprehensive taxpayer attitude survey, and it found that about half of taxpayers actually use paid tax professionals. The question is, who do we turn to, though, when it comes to tax planning and retirement? And Eric, we always talk about the different types of financial professionals and the benefits of working with a retirement planner. So let me get your advice on this.
Yeah, well, first of all, there's a lot of people who do tax, and they typically, I find, are just tax reporters. So they don't usually give you any strategy or anything else. They just do your tax return and say here, and they're doing like 50 a week during tax season, right? So they don't have much time to talk to you, and quite often, sadly, they don't do much follow up or anything after tax season. So usually a tax person's not going to help you. The financial advisors, you have to kind of be a little bit more knowledgeable or ask them a little bit more about what their, what their specialty is. Because if they're a generalist or if they're just an investment manager, there's some places that say, I hate annuities, you should too, and all this silly stuff. But then they're just money managers. They're not really giving you any real tax advice or retirement planning advice. They might have a program that shows stuff, but beyond that, there's not much. And, I just was recently meeting with somebody who they were retiring in February, and they've got this guy, they said he was a pretty young guy, of some family friend, and first of all, he's working right now, making a lot of money, and they put him into a lot of highly taxable investments. So I was like, did he talk to you about tax planning? Did he say anything about this? Because this is generating a lot of income, and this is going to actually mess you up tax-wise, because we were going to try to do a Roth, and then I realized how they structured it precludes them from funding a Roth. Because of the way they set that up. And then I said, well, what's he talking to you about, your retirement here? It was at the time, it was only, I think, 3 months away. And, he says, oh, well, he's going to meet with us. He wanted to meet with us after retirement. It's like, what? Why would, why would you, why would you try to get a plan after it's already started? Don't you need to know where that first month's check's coming from and everything else? And so one of the things you need to know is that person a generalist or just investment manager, or do they actually specialize in helping people make that shift from working life to retirement life where they're needing that income off those assets? You also want to see what type of advisor they are in terms of licensing. So, one of the things is if they have a registered representative on their card, that means they work for a thing called a broker dealer. That broker dealer says what tools they can and can't use. So they're not going to have all the products available to them. And they have a suitability standard that says they have to do what's in your general best interest for your demographics, but they don't have to do what's in your best interest. They're just supposed to do stuff that's suitable, okay for you. So it could be like the worst product or most expensive one, but as long as it fits your demographic, it's okay, which is awful. So what we're trying to do is as a registered investment advisor, we have the fiduciary standard to do what's in your best interest. So, ideally, I think you should be finding somebody who is a registered investment advisor that also does specialize in making that shift from working life to retired life, and that knows taxes. I'm licensed to do taxes. I'm also a certified financial planner. So, that helps me know all these different things. And I think that's one of the real critical things is getting good advice, because you hopefully only retire once. So you want to make it a good one.
Yeah, that's the plan, right? You certainly want to retire only one time. I always feel so bad for people who end up having to go back and work in the workforce, but that's because they didn't have it all planned out right. So, okay, let's take it. If someone's listening and they're thinking about retiring in a couple of years, what would be some things they need to be considering right now?
Well, first and foremost, they have to have an income plan, a written income plan that says, okay, I'm going to be spending X dollars to start off with in retirement, and that's going to grow with inflation. We've got however many income sources. If you're lucky enough to have a pension, Social Security, all your different assets, how much money do I need to be taking out of that? And will that money last for the rest of my life? I mean, am I going to run out of money at 95 or 75? If it's 75, you might need to work a little longer, right? You might be more than a few years away from retiring, or you might need to change stuff up a lot, right? But if it's 95, then that's great. Okay, then let's make sure we have everything structured the right way. But yeah, and with that 5 to 10 years out, that's when you have time to make some changes, make some adjustments. There's lots of guaranteed income type products out there now that are great and pay huge monies compared to what it was just a few years ago when rates were lower. So that's one of the things you want to look at is, can I maybe have some set income, so that way at least most of my base standard of living's taken care of. And then just for the fun stuff and the vacations, the trips, the new cars, other things down the road, that's where you maybe can use your market money for. But again, you have to have a plan, right? So that's one of the biggest things. And so one of the things that we've done here at Heckman Financial is we've set up a digital toolbox for people. So that way they have access to stuff like, will your money last as long as you do? Are you paying too much taxes in retirement? Social Security decision, all those wonderful things that you need to know about. And we've put them into, 10 to 15 page, PDFs that you can read real quick. And I also have access to my book, Worry Less Wealth, there. And you can set a time to talk with us. So again, if you want to take some action and really get educated and make sure you know what's going on, all you have to do is text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184. Text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And you are listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. They have offices right here in San Jose and ready to help you. So make sure you take advantage of this now. It's all complimentary. All right. We are talking about preserving your retirement from taxes. Eric, here's my question to you. How do we create a plan that addresses taxes in the future when we really don't even know what those tax policies are going to be, if we're retired for 20, 30 years?
Yeah, well, we know they're going to change.
Yeah.
Right. So typically every new president changes them somewhat, and Congress every so often just changes them. So it is kind of a moving, it's kind of like playing Monopoly and all of a sudden the board's changing, right? And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Hold it. Now you're supposed to do this. And so you do need to stay on top of it, and you do need to have somebody that's there to guide you through it and help you, figure out what all the new changes are. Like when they changed RMDs to 73 and 75, and instead of 70 and a half, then 72, right? So there's a lot of different changes, and the other thing is, leaving money to the next generation. Now they don't get to spend it. If you leave your IRA to the next generation, it used to be they could spend it over 20, 30, 40 years almost. Now it's 10 years. Now 10 years, they have to spend all that money. So, there's been a lot of tax changes, and it does change how your strategy should be set up. And so, one thing is having an advisor that's meeting with you every single year, doing updates with that. They should be every end of the year doing Roth conversion planning. Does it make sense to move some of that money to Roth or not? And then at the beginning of the year, especially if you're retired, they need to be planning out, okay, where's my money going to come from? Which bucket am I going to take it from? The taxable, a tax deductible where I owe tax on it, or tax free? And by blending those, you can lower down the overall tax rate that you're paying. And my goal is not to have somebody pay the least tax in 1 year, but the least tax over their lifetime. And by using that income plan, we can actually see, well, with this plan, you pay this much over your lifetime. With this plan, you pay this much over your lifetime. Well, which one's lower, right? So, and that's the easy thing is once you have a plan, it's easy to test it and verify it. But if you're just winging it and you're just going out and hoping, that's a little dangerous, right? So that's not what you want to do. You don't want to find out about your tax plan in April. That's way too late. You want to figure that out ahead of time. So, which types of assets should go where, which types of assets should be in your IRA or which ones should be in your taxable account. There's all sorts of things like that. So, again, if you want to set up a time to talk with us and really go over this and find out what your worries and concerns are, and then we have a second meeting and go through that whole blueprint. We used to charge a fee for that, but right now we're still waiving that fee. And so we'll be more than happy to go through that whole process. And then at the end of that second meeting, that's when you decide if you want to work together or not. So again, if you want to set up that time, all you have to do is text the word visit 800-454-1184. You can call or just text the word visit 800-454-1184 or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And we're not done yet. Stick around for more from Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. This is Wealth Creator Radio.
Become a wealth creator today. Text VISIT to 800-454-1184 to schedule your 15-minute call with Eric and his team. That's VISIT to 800-454-1184.
Be sure to like and subscribe to Wealth Creator Radio so you can stay up to date on ways to build your wealth and create a retirement you and your family will enjoy for years to come. Like and subscribe today and create your wealth for tomorrow with Wealth Creator Radio.
Hi, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, president of Heckman Financial right here in the Silicon Valley area. There are some words that can stand the test of time, and we're going to go through some timeless advice right now for you to keep in mind for retirement. So here's how it's going to go, Eric. I'm going to give you a quote, and then I want you to talk about what that has to do with retirement planning, okay?
Sounds great.
Okay, here we go. First one is Benjamin Franklin. And oh my gosh, he has so many quotes because he did so much, okay? Here's a good quote from him. Beware of little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. So that sounds like something we need to think about. Those little expenses that could cause unexpected issues in retirement, right?
Well, not just in retirement. I mean, just all the time, right?
Life.
And, right now, of course, when the subscription model kind of first came out for software and other things, it was amazing how much more profitable a lot of these companies got because, now you don't pay for it once, you pay for a tiny bit every single month, right? And same with streaming services and same with, so many different things. So another term I like is dripping nickels. That's the other good one. And so, one of the things to look at is, just sit down and look at, your credit card bills and your bank accounts. Are there things you're paying for that you're barely using or not using at all? Even worse, right? So those are things where if you can kind of go through there and start cutting out some of those expenses, it's amazing. Sometimes people can save, 100, 500, even $1,000 on stuff that they're not, really using or needing. And so, yeah, that's one of those things that, again, that's 100% return on your money, right? If you stop spending it. So yeah, it's a very good way to make some money by just stop spending it and on things that you don't need.
Right. All right. Very good. We're going over some timeless advice. I'm giving Eric some quotes and he's telling us what it has to do with retirement. This next one is from somebody we all know about, Abraham Lincoln. And he said a lot of things too, but here's one. He said, you cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good one. He did have a great way with words. And so, yeah, I mean, it is very true that I would probably say, if they're all being honest, I'd say it'd probably be 100, but I'd say at least 70% of my clients always regret not starting earlier, not doing something, sooner, right? Why didn't I put more money away when I was in my 20s or 30s and, things like that, right? And so why did we not do that? Well, because we were exactly what he was saying.
Procrastinators.
We were trying to escape the responsibility tomorrow, right? By evading it today. So, yeah, it is one of those things where if you can just start putting a little bit away, it's amazing the amount of time that compounding does and how that's on your side if you start early. If it's late, you can still do it. It just means you need to put more away and maybe you cut back more now to make sure it's all good later on. But you definitely need to have a focus on tomorrow. Always, even today.
So true. Believe me, I'm 64. My husband and I both wish we would have, back in our 30s and 40s, saved more because now we're regretting, we regret it. And man, that would have been helpful. So we're working really hard now to save though, Eric, and we've downsized and saving as much as we can. And we were out of debt and all that. So believe me, if you do it earlier, you won't have to, kind of scramble at the end like Bobby and I are doing. But all right, here's another quote from, actually, I would say this is a pretty heavy hitter in the financial world, Warren Buffett. And he says, I never attempt to make money on the stock market. I buy on the assumption that they could close the market the next day and not reopen it for 10 years. So tell us about that.
Yeah, that one's a little funky, huh? I mean, I don't think they would close it for 10 years.
I don't think so.
But yeah, I mean, in essence, what he's saying is he's trying to put money in there for long term, for owning whatever company. Right now, oh my gosh, with all the meme stocks and all the, FOMO and get rich quick kind of attitudes that you see out there. So many people, unfortunately, are just trying to jump on whatever the hottest new stock is and make a ton of money. And they may do that once or twice, but the problem is the other 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 times they didn't do it, offset what they made on those 1 or 2 times. Right. and so that, I mean, that's one of the things that you have to watch out for. I mean, you need to have that long-term focus. You need to make sure that, that this money's going to last you for the rest of your life. And, there's, also on the flip side of that, you also can't just jump back in and out. I mean, that's one of the worst things that I see where, people that, in 2022, because the market was down, they said, and they get out. And then, of course, the end of 23, it was back to where it was at the end of 21. So, those kind of things where you have these dips and back up, if you overreact to those too, then, that's going to be a problem. So, one of the things I think is anytime you're doing anything, if you have a plan to go back on, you're assembling that IKEA furniture or whatever it is, right? And all of a sudden you see some extra bolts, you can go back in the directions and make sure you didn't skip a step, right? You can make sure that you did it all right. So when you have a plan, it's easy to know, okay, should I freak out or are these just actually extra bolts, right?
Right.
Or
maybe.
Did I forget something and it's going to fall over the second I put it up? So you need to know that information. It's really critical for you. So, that's what we do with our clients is it's like, okay, am I going to be okay? Am I going to make sure this money's going to last me the rest of my life? What about inflation? What about, risk? What happens when there's a down market? Because basically every 10 years, there's going to be probably 1 to 3 down markets. And you're going to hit those in retirement. So where do you get the money that year for to live on and such? Well, if you've got a good plan where you've got foundational and steady income and market funds, you've got a plan for that. If you've got that blueprint to worry less wealth, where it talks about your income plan, your investment plan, your tax plan, healthcare and legacy plan, once you have those 5 areas taken care of, you also know you got a plan to fall back on. So, I think that's one of the things that you have to have always your eye on to make sure that you're on track and on target. And so, one of the things that you can do is if you wanted to get a little bit more information, set up a time to talk, 15 to 30 minutes with me, Eric Heckman, and no cost, no obligation, or you just want to get a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth. If you want to get some of our quick reads, we've got these 10 to 15 page papers on Social Security decision. Will my money last as long as I do? Items like that. All you got to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Yeah. And on wealthcreatorradio.com, they have, like Eric already said, there's some free reports there. But, you want some more advice? Eric's giving you, advice today. There's a lot of articles on things that you might, have questions about. What if you do need long-term care, or those Social Security decisions, or empower women investors, just all kinds of things. Head to wealthcreatorradio.com for even more. Eric and his team are here to guide you about retirement. In fact, Eric's been doing this for 30 plus years. So that is his passion, to help retirees have a remarkable retirement. And you're listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. Thank you so much. So Eric, here's our final quote, maybe from someone who's far less famous. This is a financial author, and his name is Jonathan Clements. He says, retirement is like a long vacation in Vegas. The goal is to enjoy it to the fullest, but not so fully that you run out of money. And tell us how true that is.
Yeah, well, no, definitely. I mean, it should be a lot like a vacation, but you don't want to be, I think it's almost more expensive going to Disney nowadays than it is Vegas. But, some of these places, when you're on these trips or these resort areas, right, everything's so pricey. You don't want to be spending that kind of stuff every day, for, the rest of your life. Right. So, you gotta have a little bit both ways, right? Have those fun trips, have those things, but have that in a fun fund, have a fund set aside where you've got that money to do those things, and make sure you're doing the things that you want to do, getting out there, having some fun, seeing friends, seeing family, going to all those bucket list places, but do it within a plan. So once year by year, my clients come back to us and they say, "Oh, how am I doing? Are we on track?" And I mean, one of the nicest ones I just recently had was I had a client that we went over, how she's been doing, and she's like, "Is this about right?" I mean, I looked back from some of our reports from, I think it was about 8 years or 9 years earlier, and she's averaged only about 10,000 drop in all those years of her assets.
Oh, wow.
Even though she's been living off of them and taking income and so forth out of that. So, I said, you're good. She's like, well, I'm always worried about that Costco shopping cart. Do I need to take it home with me or not? And I'm like, nope, you're fine. So, again, that's why we put all these tools up and all these great resources up at our digital toolbox. There's a lot of great stuff in there. You can set a time to talk, get a copy of my book or some of those reports. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Still more to come on Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. Stick around.
Are you happy with your Medicare plan? Even if you are, what was good for you this year might not be what's best for you next year. The team at Heckman Financial can help you sort through all the options to find the best one for you. Call now, 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184.
Be sure to like and subscribe to Wealth Creator Radio so you can stay up to date on ways to build your wealth and create a retirement you and your family will enjoy for years to come. Like and subscribe today and create your wealth for tomorrow with Wealth Creator Radio.
Hi, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer with Eric Heckman. He is president of Heckman Financial. right here in Silicon Valley. And all right, we have come to the time in our show, Eric, where we're going to have you tell another wealth success story, because this is always something, it's just a really good example for us to see how things can actually work out for the best with retirees and hear about their situations. So what do you have for us today, Eric?
Yeah, well, this one's, we'll call them Al and Tina, but they came to me and, well, it was right before all the COVID stuff happened and stuff. And they were, Al was talking to somebody, this guy Jose at work, and they were, both looking to retire, and they were in those target date funds, those ones that are, have a date on them, it's like 2025, 2030 and all that stuff. And those are really just a 60-40 stock, 60% stock, 40% bonds. And, and he was just, well, I think it's, to be honest, it's probably his wife saying, don't screw this up. So, right. So she wanted him to talk with somebody. And so when we met, we kind of said, yeah, well, this is great for growth, but you need to start having income. It's going to be a big change. And it's a very big change when you start having to withdraw money out of this after 30, 40 years of, putting money in. Right. And so, we divided that up into the three types of money I always like to refer to, which is, not just market money, but foundational stuff that can't go away, some steady income. Then once he retired, well, obviously, if people remember, 2020 was a little kind of a crazy year with the shutdowns and all that stuff, and the market dropped and then started coming back up. Well, we were able to pivot during that drop to the foundational money and the steady income, and we didn't have to lock in any losses. We didn't have to change any of his market money. Then the market went up great, so we pivoted that next year to taking that money out of there. And then once again, the next year was kind of a bad year in the market, so we pivoted again to taking that foundational money. But all the time, that steady income, all those years was paying out some income. And so by having those options from switching from one side to the other side, year by year, we didn't have to lock in as much. And Al at one point, told me the fact that, he was talking with his friend Jose, and he had huge losses. He had to sell off stuff when things were down, and he's very freaked out about his retirement. He still hasn't met with me, but Al's very happy because he's like, yeah, it is scary being retired, but now he's getting used to taking the money out and having that, and at least we're able to kind of figure out which way to take monies from. We're also blending in which should he be taking IRA money or just regular savings, regular investment stuff. So we're also looking at the tax aspects along the way, but just having some plan. They don't have to see all the news and see all the bad stuff out there and be freaked out, because they know, we've got a plan for this. This is what we've been doing. This is how we've been changing things. They know we're going to have a meeting usually every January to figure out how we're getting our income this year. If there's big changes, we get a hold of them. So by having that knowledge, it just makes you so much more relaxed, and just they can go off and have fun and travel like they've been doing, and seeing their families and doing all the stuff they've always wanted to do and getting that bucket list checked off. So again, that's why we set up the digital toolbox for people to get that great information. All you got to do to get that info is text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184. You've been listening to Wealth Creator Radio. This is Eric Heckman. I'll be back with you next week. And again, if you need to set up a time, 800-454-1184. Thanks for listening.
Information provided during Wealth Creator Radio is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. Eric Heckman offers investment advisory services through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Any tax advice given as part of this presentation is not intended to be used and cannot be used by the taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding tax penalties or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any matter or transaction addressed herein. The views and opinions expressed in the program are not necessarily those of the radio station or its sponsors, and they should not construe as legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult the appropriate advisor before making any financial decision.